Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard 8th edition video. Now today we are going to be taking a look at the infamous conscripts of the Imperial Guard. Essentially, you guys already know I've done my video on why Imperial Guard are doing so well at the moment. And I put forward the point of, well, Imperial Guard players have got these vast model collections to draw upon. No one went out there and got 180 conscripts in one go. Everyone's already had those models for ages. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take a closer look at that point about the conscripts and why conscripts are doing so well currently, and are they actually overpowered? Let's be fair about this. If we as Imperial Guard players, if we have an overpowered unit, as the kind of players that we are, we kind of have a duty to actually look at this and say, look, as Imperial Guard players, this is good, this is overpowered, or this is just normal. So that's what we're going to do now. Apologies once again before we get into this. I am still very unwell. I am coughing and sniffling, so if I cough and sniffle a lot during the video, I apologise. That's not what I want to do. So let's take a look at why people are saying. Let's take a look at the first thing, why people are saying conscripts are overpowered. We have to understand where these people are coming from. Now, the first thing, it comes down to two or three things basically. The first thing that people are saying are, well, they're so goddamn cheap. Conscripts are just too cheap. They're 3 points a model, and that model has the potential to put out 4 shots. Okay, now this is true. This is undeniable. However, this is nothing new. My rebuttal to this statement is we've had 3-point conscripts now for a long time. We've been using 3-point conscripts for a really long time. So why are these guys being singled out? I honestly don't know. I have been using conscripts for ages. I've been using Imperial Guardsmen blobs for ages. Yet people are saying to me, looking down, I'll be playing a game, looking down and going, oh, you fucking conscript spammer. And it's like, well, hang on, guys. Yes, I am a fucking conscript spammer. But yes, I have been doing this for about 5 or 6 years now. Now, and people say, well, the next point people say is, well, they don't have attacks anymore. They don't have attacks. You could just take conscripts. And it's like, okay, yeah, that is true. We no longer need to pay for platoons. However, saying conscripts don't have attacks isn't accurate. You see, if I take a 50-man conscript squad and plonk it on the board with no support whatsoever, it will do very little damage, die, and then run away back from battle shock by turn 2 or 3 from not a lot of enemy firepower and generally not achieve very much. What you have to do to make conscripts good is to buy a commissar, which is a minimum of 31 points. So commissars have gone up in price by 6 points. And then you also have to buy an officer. Now, some of you will say, well, you'll just take a junior officer, then you don't need to buy you don't need a company commander. You are going to take a company commander. Let's be honest, you are going to take a company commander because if you are an infantry guard player, you need to fill out those HQ choices for that battalion. So you are going to take a company commander because you want that extra survivability, number one, and you want from the extra wound, and you want the ability to not just order the conscripts, but also have the chance to order other units around as well. You're going to take advantage of that. So Saying that conscripts have no task is false, because you need to spend, if you're going to do the job properly, you are going to be spending 61 points on support characters. Now, previously, you know, and people are saying, well, you know, so that's point number 2. And now people are saying, well, the orders go off automatically, and, you know, the characters, you know, the orders are going off automatically, and the characters are better now. You know, you can't stop the. Yeah, the characters are too powerful. The commissar's buff shouldn't affect multiple units. It should only affect one unit, or it's, you know, all these things, and or, you know, they're saying, and my response to that is, no, characters aren't tougher. You're wrong. Okay. You're wrong. Now, I'm not just going to say you're wrong and leave it. I am obviously going to say why they're wrong. Feels like there's a fucking siren outside my... there's a fucking siren going on outside my window, guys. Anyway, I think a car alarm's going off. Anyway, guys. Where was I? Yes. Why are you wrong? Why are characters not more survival? Well, number 1, before, I would take a commissar and put him in a blob of conscripts, and you would literally have to kill every single conscript before you'd get to him. I'd make sure that was how it was going to happen. Before, you had Lookout Sir. So even if you were able to use to get a wound on the conscript, on the commissar, or the priest, remember priests, guys? You know, you would have a 2+ or 4+ Lookout Sir. So, no, they're not better. Yeah, they've got more wounds. They do have a couple more wounds, commissars. Yeah, I'll admit that. But they don't have that ability to look out Sir anymore. Saying a commissar has more wounds is an inaccurate statement, because before, my commissars had 50 wounds. Now they've only got 3. Saying company commanders have got more wounds. Well, company commanders used to have 3 wounds plus 4 veterans. Now they've only got 4 wounds. So I've actually got less wounds on my characters. Less wounds, and I can't look out Sir. Priests. You know, priests have used to... Imagine, you know, imagine if you were able to do what priests... You know, priests were still good. Be able to get the rerolls to hit. Fearless. Can't do that anymore. So our characters are good. Don't think I'm saying our characters are bad. They're not. But they're not suddenly these unstoppable superhero demigods that you have no way of killing. Killing an Imperial Guard character is incredibly easy. Take a couple of sniper squads. That's it. If you take 2 squads of snipers, you will pretty much kill every Imperial Guard character by turn 3. Unless they're hiding them. You will. Trust me. Now, people are saying, well, so... Our characters have got more expensive, but are technically less durable. Our conscripts are the same price as they've always been, and they still have to pay a tax. So what else? Oh, orders, they go off automatically now. People are saying you shouldn't be able to order conscripts. They haven't had enough training. They wouldn't be able to follow orders. They don't know what's going on. This is a big, big misconception about what conscripts are in the Imperial Guard. Excuse me. Big, big misconception about what conscripts are in the Imperial Guard and what conscripts are in general. Okay, if you go back and look through the history of conscripts, the original unit that made conscripts famous were White Shields, and these were trainee Imperial Guardsmen. They were still, used by the Cadians. They were still very well trained. They were still good at their job. They were still Guardsmen. They were just trainee Imperial Guardsmen. Okay, so that's what the conscripts originally were, and Games Workshop has kind of stuck with that fluff for a long time, saying, conscripts are not just any old Tom, Dick and Harry. They are, a lot of the time trainee soldiers. But they also acknowledge that conscripts can also be just bodies of manpower that are quickly brought together. But what you have to understand is what a guardsman is and what a conscript is in sort of on the tabletop. Added the fluff. Guardsman, typically, an Imperial Guardsman is normally the veteran of at least a few battles under his belt. You know, when you have that Guardsman squad on the table, that doesn't represent a hardened veteran who's the last remaining soldiers from his regiment. Because that's what hardened veterans typically show. Last remaining soldiers from a whole company. Guardsmen, normal Imperial Guardsmen, are professional soldiers. Trained up to the standard of like a GI, a World War II GI. Or, you know, from an infantry section. If you would take an American soldier today, who's done a couple of tours of Iraq or Afghanistan, that is a guardsman. Now a conscript, vast majority of conscripts that are used or on the tabletop are just green soldiers. They're just inexperienced soldiers, but soldiers nonetheless. So think about, I mean, and this is represented, and those of you who may disagree with me may be like, no, they're just everyday citizens who have had a rifle put in their hand. Yes, some of them are, but not the vast majority of them. The vast majority of them are just inexperienced soldiers. A good example of this would be maybe the troop surge. I think it was in Iraq or Afghanistan. I can't. Going to get crucified for that, but I believe it was the troop surge in Afghanistan, when America just sent over like 50,000 dudes overnight. They lowered the standards to get a lot more men into the army, a lot more people into the army, and a lot of the people that they were sending over were still fully trained soldiers, still fully equipped soldiers, but very green, very inexperienced. A lot, like National Guardsmen as well. The National Guard, a lot of them got sent over. Still fully equipped, but just inexperienced, not hardened to the realities of war. This is actually shown in the equipment for conscripts. Take a look at the equipment for conscripts. What are they armed with? Lasgun, flak armour, frag grenades. Full layout of a guard. What is a guardsman armed with? Lasgun, flak armour, frag grenades. They've got exactly the same equipment. But one is a fresh-faced new soldier. And one is a guy who's got a few tours under his belt, a few battle zones under his belt. Good example. Go and read the books by Dan Abnett, the Tanith First and Only. The Tanith start out as very green soldiers, well trained, but very green soldiers, and they go from being not conscripts per se, but inexperienced, almost conscript-like soldiers to pretty good regular guardsmen to veterans. And then the new inductees they get, they're like the conscripts, like when they get the Vervenheimers in, and they're pretty inexperienced, a lot of the Vervenheimers. A lot of them are just militia that get brought in, a lot of them. So that's my point. And the reason I've chosen this picture here is to use a great example of sort of what conscripts are. This is a picture of the Pals Battalion, I don't know which one, unfortunately, of a Pals Battalion from World War I. British Pals Battalion. Very quickly, guys, not to drone on and on. What a Pals Battalion was essentially, in World War I, the British Army was a very, very professional army, but it was very, very small. And the armies they were facing off against, like the German army, was very, very big. A lot of other armies had... A lot of other countries have these huge armies of fairly inexperienced soldiers. So what the British Army had to do to keep pace with these huge horde armies was to up their manpower. And they did this by creating the Pals Battalions. And that basically, it literally was sign up to the army with your pals, with your buddies, with your friends. And so thousands upon thousands upon thousands of these guys went down to the recruiting office, signed up, look at them. These are the guys here. Look at their equipment. They've all got good equipment. A lot of them are very young. Look at them. Look at that chap in the front. Second guy in, front right. He's very young. Guy behind him, young. A couple of older chaps. That guy to the left, he looks a bit older with a moustache, looking directly at the camera, rifle over his shoulder. You know, a lot of them are very, you know, we're just pals, very young. And that's what a lot of conscripts were like. And that's what a lot of conscripts, you know, a lot of them were just inexperienced soldiers. And then later on, obviously, the British Army did actually introduce conscription. And what was the conscription? They got guys, but they still equipped them perfectly. They didn't give them shitty equipment. Still gave them good equipment, because there's no point in sending someone into battle with nothing, because they just die. So even if you have a terrible soldier or a very inexperienced soldier, you've still got to equip him, because then he can actually do something. Otherwise, he is a waste of rations. Now, there are examples, of course, where conscripts are, you know, we need some extra men, empty a prison and give them all a lasgun and tell them if you survive, you get your freedom. There are cases like that. Don't get me wrong. But the majority of the time, conscripts are just green soldiers. You know, a lot of the time when conscripts, a lot of infantry regiments, what you have to understand, are just made up of guys with lasguns. There are entire regiments of Imperial Guard that are just raised, and intentionally raised, with nothing but guys with lasguns. Because the whole point is to keep the separation of the guard units. So I know I've gone off and off and off and on one, but what I'm trying to get across here is and this is my big point, is saying conscripts are not proper soldiers and they shouldn't be able to take orders sets a very dangerous precedent, because then you have to say, well, what can receive orders? Can, like, you know, should now I know, you know, at the moment Ogryns can't, but in the past editions, Ogryns could receive orders. Are you saying that you're stupid to receive orders now? You know, where is the line drawn between what can receive orders and what can't receive orders? It starts making dangerous distinctions. So we've gone through conscript. You know, they don't do a lot of damage. We've already said that. They're very character reliant. They're very easy to kill. You kill conscripts by the handful. You know, jump units can get behind them and kill the character snipers. This is what I'm gonna come back to. Let me just have a quick drink. The sore throat is bothering me. The number one thing that will make conscripts balance is when people change their mindset. I said in my last video I didn't come across a single sniper at the tournament. If I had come across any opponent that had brought some snipers, my games would have been very different. Very, very different. And this is this change of mindset. People are going on the internet, and I am worried because Games Workshop started saying, "Oh, we interact with the community a lot more now." And it's like, well, hang on, guys. If you take everything that's being said on the internet at face value, it's not going to be great. Not for the Imperial Guard, not for the hobby. You can't bring this new rule set out and then start changing it to be like the old rule set, because that's what people want. They don't want to have to adapt and to think. People just want to turn up and be able to win without having to think, and that's wrong. So Imperial Guard players are doing so well because we've had to think and adapt for many editions now so that we can claw our victories. So we're already good at that. Other people just turned up and just rolled some dice. Oh, I got an invisible Death Star. Oh, you're dead. So people need to change this mindset. People can't expect to turn up to a battle without any snipers whatsoever, especially if they know they're facing Imperial Guard, and to expect to win. You can't do that. You can't do that. Every army has the ability to target those guard characters. Most of the time they will be behind a blob. You don't need to deep strike a unit in to get at those characters. Flying units. Not just planes, anything that can jump over a front line and kill a character. It would, you know, an example would be a unit of Assault Marines. A little 5-man unit of Assault Marines armed with maybe a flamer. You throw enough shit at the front of the conscript wall So the conscripts are like, oh, we're not that bothered about, the Imperial Guard players are like, oh, I'm not that bothered about that flamer, and then you jump the flamer over the top, get it so the commissar is the nearest character, and you flame and bolt pistol and kill that character. Also, last thing I want to say is, people need to read the rules, because if you look at the rules for characters, they may only be the target if they are for shooting attacks if they are the nearest model. In assault, doesn't matter. You can assault a character even if it's not the nearest unit. Trust me. Go back and look at the rules. Being the closest only applies to shooting attacks. So again, take your assault marines or something else that can fly, jump it over the top, and then assault that commissar. You'll kill him. It's not very hard to kill. Hasn't even got an invuln save. So there we go. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I sort of went off one a little bit in the middle about, my little rant about conscripts. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of the time conscripts are represented by guard players as just being like, mass conscription, here you go. But they're not. You've got to understand, you've got to remember, guys, a lot of the time conscripts are just inexperienced soldiers. But soldiers nonetheless. So, very quick summary. Essentially, conscripts are powerful at the moment, but I would say your opponents, or so far I can comment, my opponent's ignorance, my opponent's inability to change their mindset has been their greatest downfall. People are running at the Imperial Guard gun lines, trying to engage them in close combat, trying to tear them apart in close combat or close range firefights, and getting torn apart. The interesting thing is they could never get away with doing that in 6th and 7th edition unless they were an Invisible Death Star. So trying to do it now, it's no different. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please tell me what you think. Am I off the mark? Am I right? Am I wrong? Are conscripts actually completely bullshit and overpowered? If they are, and you can present me a good argument, I'll accept it. You guys know what I'm like. I'm not a stick in the mud. I will accept evidence if it's put in front of me. So guys, tell me what you think. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.